All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio tonight. I am going to try to paint for you this nice picture. A little rowboat here, small dock, a little reflection in the water, and a nice sky. Hoping to do a good job with this tonight. I am using my, where's it at? Pro Art 140 pound 12 by 16 inch watercolor paper. And if I can find it, I believe my drawing is right here. My boat, my dock, some stuff up here. In order to make this picture come to life, I'm going to be using my limited palette of colors. The colors are, I should bring this out here, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, cobalt green, hooker's green, aureolin, cad yellow, pale, alizarin crimson, quinacridone red. Over here we've got raw umber, burnt umber, Payne's gray, and neutral tint. This is a mix of Winsor Newton, and M gram. What's this? M gram. Anyways, it's a mix of Winsor Newton and M gram that I had. I'm going to start this by using my squirrel quill brush. This is from Dainayw. I'm just going to get that wet. And before I do anything else, I've got my computer over here. I've got my paints over here, which means I've got to turn on my paint cam. There it is, paint cam. So you can see what I'm doing, or mostly see what I'm doing. It looks like it's been moved just ever so slightly. Let's see if we can adjust that a little bit. There we go. I think you get a little bit better view now. All right, I'm going to dip into my cerulean blue up here. That's the go-to blue that I use for my skies. Cerulean blue is a nice neutral blue. And I'm just going to start laying that on nice and wet up here. Right down below what I'm going to make my tree line. And I'm going to let that I'm going to bring that all the way down. If I get a little blue undertone under there, it's just going to help to push this back a little bit. I'm going to mix a little bit of my ultramarine in with this. Come on, ultramarine. This one's definitely a Winsor & Newton product because it is super hard. I don't know what the binder is that they use that really turns rock hard, but boy oh boy, do their colors ever turn rock hard. I'm just going to continue to pull this down. All right, I'm going to paint around my dock here, or somewhat around my dock anyways. Something like that. And on this side, just did a little bit of water off of there. Something like that. And off onto this side. We don't want to make sure I get there before the color dries on the paper and I get a water line. I don't want that. Make sure I get up into my corners. I'd rather go over my line just a little bit here so that I don't get a white splotch anywhere I don't want it. All right, now I'm going to get a little bit of my Payne's gray and I'm going to run it up here. You know what, I'm going to get a little bit of this burnt umber too. I'm going to run it up here. And that's going to help me mark my water line. Then I'm going to continue with a mix of those two. Maybe a bit more in the burnt umber, and I'm going to draw that out just in general wherever I'm going to put my trees up there, and that's going to give me a nice soft reflection right on the water without me having done much of anything. Come on. Boy, those Winsor paints are super hard. All right, there we go. Maybe just a little bit. Let's get a big dollop of water and put right on there. There we go. Start to soften that right up. Yeah. Good, good, good. Now I'm going to take that color and I'm actually going to go up my paper with it just a little bit. I've got a little bit more on there than I want. And I've got kind of a brownish area here, kind of close to the shoreline. I'm not sure what has happened there. Grass dried off. Maybe it got died off. Not dried off, died off. Maybe it got a little too wet or something. And it's got a little bit of this, a little bit of green mixed in. I'm using almost straight Hooker's green here. I want a nice, bright, like a big pop, a little pop of color in there. Not big, no, it's not huge, but. And then I'm going to go up higher in my painting up here, and I'm going to start laying in some of the tree line, and I'm just grabbing a mix of a few colors here. This raw umber has a little bit of a greenish tint with it, especially when I mix it with this aureolin, and I'm going to just start putting a little bit of that on just above that line. There we go. Maybe that's a layer of, I don't know, taller weeds or something back there. And then I've got, let's see, I need to cool that down a little bit. Well, I can use this color right there. Oh, that's good. That's good. Cool it down with that burnt umber that I had mixed there previously. And then I'm going to go in and right on top of that, and that's going to help to draw some of that color up. I'm going to make my tree line up there. There we go. And over and across. It's probably got a few darker areas. If it does, in your painting, you can mix in a little bit of this neutral tint here and there. Darken a few areas up for you. If your painting doesn't have those, that's fine. Look, now I'm just mixing all colors in here. You just want to get some nice greens in here. You could mix a few blues in here if you really want to darken it down, so we can get some bluer trees. There we go. But just a nice mix right along the top. And now we've got, without doing a whole lot of work, we've got our tree line back there, and we've got kind of a nice reflection of it in the foreground, and we didn't really do much of anything. We just kind of let the paint do what it wants to do on the paper here. We can go back in and move some of this around if you don't like the way it's coming down your page. I don't know if I mentioned my board is at, a 10-degree angle, something like that. So all my paint is going to run just a little bit, and that for me is how I want to do this. I want my paint to run together and fall down. And the reason why we do that, the reason why people do that, is because if your board is at an angle, even a very slight angle, your paints are going to run in one direction. If, however, your board is flat, completely flat, and you put water on the page, the only way that that water can run, the only way, well, no, I have it backwards. That the paint can run in any way that it wants to. If it's on an incline, it can only go one direction. If it's not on an incline, that paint is going to go wherever it wants to go, not where you want it to go. So I'm forcing it to come one direction, just down this way. All right, so I've got my shoreline there. I may have gone in with my brush a little too damp in here. Well, let's see if I can do a little bit to fix this up. My brush was a little too damp right where that water line is, and I might get a bit of a back run here and there. But until this is well and truly dry, you can go in and monkey and futz with this, and you give it some of these marks like this, you're going to give it a lot of texture back there. I don't know, I think I'm going to leave it like that. I think I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm not going to touch it anymore. Now we need to turn our attention to everything down here. So I've got this old dock here that, well, I'm going to use this raw umber color, and I'm going to mix maybe a little bit of, I think I had neutral tint in there. There's my dock. Just paint that right on like that. Goes into the water there, and there's some wood structure back here a little bit. While I've got that color going, let me just add a little bit more of that raw umber. I'm going to paint the inside of my boat here. There we go, the inside of my boat. Trying to be a little careful with it here. I don't have to be super careful. The only place I have to be super careful with it is right up there where it meets that blue, because I don't want it to go back into my water. There we go, got the inside of that boat painted. Oh, it's a green boat. Okay, let's give it a nice green color here. Well, it's going to be interesting. For some reason, I thought this was a red boat. I don't know why I thought it was a red boat. It's a green boat. We'll give it a little bit of green color here, and of course we're going to give the surrounding area some green color as well. It's going to complicate things just a bit. I'm going to tack in a little bit of this neutral tint right up here, and I'm going to hope that that is going to give just a little bit of shadow on here for us. We'll put it in now and see what it does. Hopefully it's going to work for us and not against us. And give us a nice shape to this boat. There we go. I'm going to leave that like that before I mess around with it, play around with it too much. All right, and now I'm going to mix up a little different color of green. I'm going to use my cobalt green and my cad yellow as my base. And where I think I'm going to need it, I'm going to mix in a little bit extra of this burnt umber in here. if I look at our picture here, it looks like it must be getting on towards fall. Now I still have some greens up here, but it looks like it's working its way towards fall, and I don't want to change that up too much. I did move it to a little bit maybe late summer, let's say. We're going to call it okay. We'll say that's an okay thing to do, especially with this yellow in the grass. That's why I put the raw umber in there. It still looks like it's green and vibrant, but maybe it's starting to turn a little bit brown, and summer is just thinking about coming to an end. And I'm at this point, I'm just going in, and you can see what I'm doing on the paint cam there. I'm switching colors up a little bit. Every time I go back to my palette over here, I'm just changing colors a little bit here and a little bit there. Just trying to be careful not to go into too much of that boat there. There we go, and put some color around our dock. I think that looks okay. We're going to cover some or most of that up anyway. And I painted right up and I touched the bottom of the boat here, so you could see that it's sitting in some weeds there. Went right over top of it. All right. I think I'm going to drop down a size on my brush, or two, I guess just two. I was using a number 3. Clean that out really good. I'm probably going to be done with that, and I'm going to go to a number 1, size number 1. Also by Dainayw. Here it is. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to start putting in a few details on my dock here. So I just need, what I need to do is find out where these timbers that make the dock are. Drop in a few low lights. I always hate saying low lights, like it's such a terrible word, like, oh, it's a horrible thing, it's a low light. Oh, I hate low lights. Well, I don't want it to be a bad sounding anything for this poor old dock, but I guess that's what it is. It's not a highlight, it's a low light, right? So let me go ahead and drop that in. Maybe there's a little bit of something on this side over here. And just by adding a couple of lines here, we've given dimension and some woodiness to this dock. Do the same thing over. Oh! Oh! No! Okay, we'll work with it. Oh, I'm holding it so lightly. It just popped right out of my hand. All right, and you could add, you could go add some more color to this. Maybe there's a few extra lines up there. I think I'm gonna stop with what I'm doing with that dock right now. I think I'm playing with it actually. Actually, what I'm going to do before I do that, I'm going to get a little bit of Payne's Gray and a little bit of this ultramarine. And I'm just going to give a little bit of, it might be too dark. Let's see if we can't get this a little bit lighter. Just give the indication of a little bit of ripple right around the foot of that dock. There we go. All right, and I'm going to come back into my, wow, I've got a mess here now, don't I? I'm going to come back into my raw umber. Now I've got this whole brown color mixed up right in there. That's a mixture, I'm sure, of neutral tint, raw umber, maybe a little burnt umber. There's probably a little bit of green in there. There's probably all kinds of stuff. But just like I did with the dock over there, I'm going to get this a little bit darker. I want to do a little bit darker, I can add a little bit of this neutral tint. That always helps to darken it up a little bit. I'm going to come into here and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow in here. If you'll forgive me for just a moment, this will be a lot easier if I could just turn this a little bit. Once again, I find myself being quiet when I'm trying to concentrate and do something. It's funny how that works. Okay. I try to talk and paint at the same time, and sometimes it works great, and sometimes, well, not really at all. All right, well, I've just got this shadow that I'm putting in way up at the bow up here. Try and get that somewhat straight. There we go. There's a nice dark shadow right there where everything comes together, and then it's going to get lighter as it comes out. I didn't rinse my brush quite well enough. There we go, right out through the top of that. A little more color off. I can paint it back towards the front, and it'll take a little bit more of that off. There we go, and put a little bit more of this line in here where the boards are. There's some over here, some up there, and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow in here where the seat goes, just to make it recognizable. There we are, and there we are back there. I do need, if I can get some of that green out of my aureolin, I can use a little bit of that and a little bit of raw umber. And I can almost paint my paddle in, just like that. I should wait to paint this paddle until I've got everything done back there, but I'm gonna forge ahead because I can. No, I'm not gonna forge ahead because I can. I'm just gonna do it because I think I can get away with it. Get some shadows in that boat over there. They don't have to all be perfect. They can be a little kooky. So let's see. I'm gonna do that. There you go. That brings that seat out a little bit more, I think. Needed something to bring that out a little bit. That seat all the way at the top. How are we looking? We're kind of looking like a canoe there. I got a little overzealous, I think, with my neutral tint up here. We can probably fix some of that. All right, anyway, before I get too bogged down in that, I need to make some actual weeds here. For that, I'm going to go back into my cobalt green. I'm going to clean my brush this time before I dip it in my aureolin. There we go. Now I've got my nice mid to late summer green color. Could put a little bit of that raw umber in there, like I said. And what do I want to do? Well, I want to start right back here. I'm going to strengthen some of these weeds that are growing up back here. Okay. Here they are, right up in front of that dock. I knew they were growing in front of this dock. They don't just grow straight. I'm going to warm the base of some of these up a little bit, just mixing in the smallest amount of quinacridone red. And if I need to make them a little bit, some of these a little bit more green, I can mix in just a touch of my Hooker's green. And where you might have a stronger shadow, right at that lip there, I'm just going to put in a bit of a stronger mixture, and I'm going to strengthen that mixture up with a little bit of neutral tint, and that should make that gunwale sideboard, what are we calling that thing? It's going to make that side stand out just a bit more. All right, and now I'm going to come, well, I'm going to add some more over here. Well, that's a little bright. That's a little brighter than I wanted. I'll just dull that down with some of that red. There we go, much better. I'm going to pull that down and kind of squish that around a little bit. You know what? I want these to come up a little higher. I'm going to grab a different brush, and I'm just going to pull these up. There we go. These are now some taller weeds. Maybe there's a few of these that are taller sticking out too. Right on the side there, right on the side of this, the wood of this old dock. I need a little stronger mix here. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's looking better. Much better. I just vary the color on a couple of these. Oh yeah, much better. Okay. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing on this side over here. I'm going to start with a little bit of this neutral tint where it's kind of a shadow area right beside this canoe. It's much darker. And I'm going to go slow in hopes of preserving that arc of that wood there. Then I can come back in with some of these colors and draw in. And again, maybe these are, ooh, that's a big fat reed right there, or weed, or whatever that is. Just draw in a few more of these weeds. I want to, let's just do this. I'm going to add a little color here. All right, so those are the ones we can see right there. And now as I come down, I want to leave some areas in here. And I want to add some other areas. Oh, that sounded terrible. Okay, I don't want to leave some areas. What I want to do is leave some of that yellowish green from underneath as I'm working my way down and drawing some of these weeds and reeds and things that are growing alongside of this dock area. So I don't want to totally take up all of that underpainting, but I do want to take some of it out. And I'm just going to draw a few weeds. These ones here, maybe they come out this way. They get smashed over by that boat a little bit, or they come right up to that boat like that. These are the most important ones because these are the ones we're going to see when this painting is done. And we're going to see them the most because they're right beside that part that's going to get the most looks. Shoot right onto that boat there. So I want to make sure we put some of those on there. And I'm just trying to vary this color a little bit here and there. Well, I don't want to do that. That's one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to go over that. We'll come back and fix that in a second. I don't want to go over that paddle. So I need that to be standing out a little bit. So we need that to pop this way. All right, I'm going to mix a little blues in over here on the side. Some of these are big, and sometimes it helps if you're painting stuff like this to cluster them. Here's a cluster of weeds. Here's a cluster. Here's a cluster. Right here, these ones can get pretty big because we're in the front. But if we put them in, you know, ones and twos here and there, but if we really put a grouping of them together, that's kind of how they grow in nature. Right? You don't see just, well, I guess if you have a normal lawn, from the surface, it looks like it grows just everywhere. But if you look underneath at the roots of everything, really it grows in these little clumps, and there's a whole bunch of little clumps. So what we've done here is we've let these clumps just grow up real big. And we are, you know, they're real big and they're spaced, few and far between here. I've got plenty of them on here. There's a big clump right there. There's a clump right there, and there's one. And now we can come back in. If you can do it and kind of go right over top, you can almost add a whole nother layer of dimension to these. If you can't, that's totally fine too. So you could just keep adding and adding, little ones, big ones, ones that are redder, ones that are bluer, ones that are greener, yellower. Whatever you want. And as they dry, you can go back and drop some other ones in there. Here's a couple growing up back there. All right, before I get too carried away with that, I'm gonna go back to, what was I doing before? This was cad yellow and raw umber. I'm gonna see if I can do this. I'm going to do this with a different brush is what I'm going to do. What did I have here? This is a silver black velvet brush. This is, what size is this one? This is a size 4. And I'm going to put my hand down here to rest it on. That's not going to be right. I need to darken that up a little bit. So I need this paddle to look more paddle-ish. And I think I may have had a little bit of handshake. Not a handshake. Hand shake. Right there. I'm going to make this a slightly different color than the boat. I think that's going to help out tremendously to help set it off. Let's see how we can do this. Hold still. You can do it. Not quite the same color all the way out, but that's all right. And I think I'm going to need to put a bit of a shadow on the boat down here as this comes across. Put something like that. Very good. It should look like that's a shadow coming straight out there now. And I probably need a bit of a shadow for it down here too, so your eye knows what it's looking at. There we go. It's getting better. I think it's looking pretty good. This is all nice and in distancy back there. as we come forward, we're getting more and more in focus. I'm going to do a little bit of work on my boat here. I'm going to do it kind of like this. I'm going to get my green color out, and I'm going to strengthen this underneath. There we go. And why I want to do this, I want to set this off a little bit. I want, I don't need this to go all the way down, but I need to set off the railing, this right on the top here. I need that to be a little bit more defined, stand out a little bit more. I think I can get away with something like this. There we go. That makes it stand out a bit more. In fact, I could do a little bit more on the inside here. Just there, that might make it stand out even more. And if I really was getting crazy about it, I could do a little bit more down here, add a few more marks here and there in the wood, redraw some of the wood planks that make up the sides of this. There's another one, there's another one. Our seat comes over something like that. All right, and I'm getting close to the time where I'm done painting and I'm into fiddling. I don't know exactly where that happens, but I know it happens sometime around now. And if I don't want to get too fiddly with this, I'm going to have to stop this pretty quick. Let's see, yeah, that's there. That looks okay. That comes down like that. All right, I'm definitely getting into fiddling time. I can feel it. I know it. I know I should stop, or at least slow down a little bit. But I don't want to. I kind of like the way my little boat looks. I'm going to strengthen up a couple of these weeds in here. Maybe give them a few little friends. Now that I've got a smaller brush here. A little different color. There we go. You know what? This is totally just fiddling at this point. I can feel it. And I have to stop. I have to tell myself I need to stop. I need to stop. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Sometimes I crack myself up. Okay, well, anyways, here we go. Let me get this out of the way. You don't need to see a big mess over there. Here's my take on this nice little scene, a nice little dock, some nice reflection, and, of course, a nice little boat in the grass. I'm just going to sign this one and call it good. I hope you had a good time painting with me tonight. I know I had a fun time painting. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you stop by again. We'll see you real soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.